Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today I've got a fountain pen focus for you. We're going to take a look at this. This is the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. It's in this gorgeous dark Hawaii colour. I love this pen. I'm going to be honest with you, it's one of my favourites. It's a steel nibbed pen, but it performs so well you wouldn't even realise it. So join me now down on the mat. Let's take a look at the pen. We'll compare it with some other ones, do a writing sample, then I'll give you my thoughts and we'll give a score for the pen. Welcome down to the mat. Let's start by taking a walk through the pen. So here we have the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. This is in the blue Hawaii colour. I love the colouring of this. It's got this silver coloured trim. I think it just fetches everything nicely together. Looking through the body, we start up here with the dome. This comes to a point. That comes down into the cap. The cap tapers out till it gets roughly to the bottom of the clip. And then it seems to be the same width down until we get these bands here. So there's 3 bands with a little bit of that gorgeous blue material between them. Below them we've got a taper, and that tapers right the way down to the body. There's no drop off, it just feels nice. It's been well engineered, it's been well thought of. The clip, that's nice and springy. There's a little wheel at the bottom of the clip. That should help going over any material when you're trying to put in your shirt pocket. One thing I would say with the clip, I'm just going to turn this around slightly. Personally, when you look at it on here, the clip to me looks ridiculously small. I think if it was on the normal size one, it might not be too bad, but certainly on the Grande, that clip could do with just being that little bit bigger, because to me, it just looks out of proportion. So the body, looking at the body, it appears to be tapering down all the way until we get to another silver band. And then we've got there the piston mechanism. I'm not going to fiddle with that because there's already in this pen. As I said, this is the dark Hawaii colour. Let's just turn this pen around. Let's look at the colour of this. So we've got different blues. We've got a dark blue. Here we've got a bit like a shiny white colours in there. Looks a bit like waves, doesn't it? Turn that around again. I think it looks really nice. But we've also, as well as the blues, we've seen it a couple of times on the cap. We've got these brown colours as well. And they, to me, that's a bit like sand, isn't it? And rocks. So you can imagine the Hawaii with that sea coming up and hitting the sand. I think it looks quite pretty. I like the spaghetti pattern. Again, that to my eye just fetches interest to the pen. Now at the moment, nothing was lined up. Let me see if I can line these up. There we go. So we've lined up here this with the cap now. So to get it to line up, you've got to get in the right orientation. I don't worry about it. As long as the cap's on, to me, that's all that matters. The other thing we've got here is we've got the name of the pen. So hopefully I can get this. So we've got Leonardo, Officina, Italiana, and then we've got the number, and that's number 288. I like the idea that it's numbered. It's not limited, but there is a number on there. One of the things I'd be interested to know is that number for the whole Leonardo Momento Zero Grande line, or is that number for this pattern within that line? That would be interesting. Doesn't really make a difference though, does it? Let's take the cap off. So we go half, 1, literally just over, maybe 1 1/8 of a turn, and that comes off to reveal this gorgeous Leonardo nib. The nib, nothing really impressive about it. It's simple, and I've got to be honest, I like that about it. I like that it's just simple. There's no fanciness on it. All we've got is that plain silver coloured material. We've got the Leonardo logo. Then underneath that we've got Leonardo. These are Yoho nibs. There used to be a Bock nibbed version, but that swapped over. I think it was about the start of 2021. So when I actually ordered this, it was well into 2021. So this came with a Yoho version of the nib. The pen is a piston filler, and this one is a locked piston filler, so you can't take this off. This is all fixed in place. With the normal Leonardo Momento Zero line, that's a capture converter, whereas with the Grande, that's not. It's an actual piston filler. It takes a lot of ink. I've had this well over a year now, and it's only on its 4th full of ink, and it's constantly inked up. So it's not as if I write it off and then leave it for a while before putting more ink in it. I don't. It's constantly being filled up. So one fill does last a long time. I will admit I've not measured how much ink it takes. Again, I don't really bother too much with that, because as long as there's ink there and it's writing, that's all I'm really worried about. The actual amount of ink, it's nice to know, but not important to me. From the nib, we then come into the section. I like the way that this section is shaped. So it's got like a step in the middle. But what that means is when I'm holding the pen, the way my hand is, it's really comfortable. And where I naturally have it going up on my finger, that seems to be where it's actually happening on the pen. So it's, again, really well thought of, really well engineered. The Grande version is a really good fit for my hand. Really nice. Love using this pen. Let's just pop the cap back on. What I'm going to do is just fetch in a couple of other of my Leonardo pens. The first one I'm going to fetch in is the Furore. So this is a slightly different shaped pen. So it's more of a cigar shaped than what we see with the Momento Zero line. The other pen I'm going to fetch in is a Momento Zero Magico. So it's the same size as a normal Leonardo Momento Zero. We can now see here the difference in size with the Grande. This is where I want to mention about the clips. You can see here the clips, they're all the same size. And I still think with the Grande, it would have been nicer with a larger clip. It would look more balanced to my eye. In terms of costings, the Leonardo Furore, that was 230 Australian dollars. The Momento Magico was 260 Australian dollars. The Momento Zero Grande, that was 377 Australian dollars. And that was me buying it from Europe. If I'd have bought it in Australia, it'd have been nearly $500. So definitely I saw a big saving going to Europe to get it. And because Applebaum, they have free shipping over a certain amount, I didn't even have to pay for shipping. Let's take the caps off these and take a look at these pens unposted. Unposted, the nibs, virtually identical. Yes, I know, we've got a gold trim on this one, but that doesn't affect the actual nib itself. I've got a stub nib on the Furore and a medium nib on the Grande. We can see between the Magico and the Momento Zero Grande, there's quite a difference in the section. We've got this nice shape here on the Grande. Very similar shape, but not as angular on the Furore. But here on the Magico, that seems like more of a rounded type section. If I hold these in my hands, you can maybe see the difference. This one, it feels wide. It feels like there's a good chunk in there. With the Furore, that's comfortable. And with the Momento Zero Grande, yes, you've got that extra bit of girth that isn't there on the Furore, but still the shape seems a lot more comfortable than what I find with the Magico. The other big difference between the Magico and the Momento Zero Grande is this ink window. So on the Magico, I love the window. I can see how much ink's in there. It's a nice broad window, so it's easy to see. That's, to me, one of the things missing from the Grande. I would love to have a model with that ink window because that makes it so much easier to see what's going on. I can tell how much ink's left. I know I've only filled this Momento Zero Grande 4 times. 2 of those times, it ran out when I was in a meeting, which was quite embarrassing because I had to quickly swap pens. If it had had an ink window, I'd have known how much ink is in there. So that is definitely, to me, a weakness of this pen. Going to just post the pens so you can see them posted. Posted, The Magica and the Grande seem very similar in terms of size, don't they? The Furore a little bit shorter. I'll be honest though, I never post these pens, but I'm just showing you this for completeness. I'm now going to swap out the Furore and the Magica and fetch in a couple of pens that are in the same price range. So the two pens I've just brought out, there's a Visconti Van Gogh, that was 343 Australian dollars, and a Pilot Custom 823, that was 394 Australian dollars. And the 377 for the Leonardo Grande, well, that fits quite nicely in between the two of them, doesn't it? Posted, you can see there's a definite size difference, can't you? One of the things I find interesting, the Visconti nib, doesn't that look small compared to the other two? I mean, we've got a Pilot number 15 size nib on the 823. This is a number 6 nib. And this, I believe, on the Visconti is, I think, a number 5 size nib. Let's get rid of the caps and see these unposted. Unposted, the 823 and the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, very similar in size. The 823 just a teeniest little bit shorter. The Visconti, that looks a lot shorter, doesn't it? I mean, looking at this, to me, that Visconti looks like the baby of the bunch. Let's just pop the caps back on. With the caps on, very similar story. The 823 and the Momento Zero Grande, very similar in size. Visconti, although it looks a little bit bigger than when it was unposted, still the shorter of the three. Let's move these out of the way, and we'll fetch in a notebook and we'll do some writing. So here we've got the notebook I'm going to be using today. This is by Ayush. It's a gorgeous paper. It's an A4 notebook, so slightly larger than the notebook I usually use for my testing. But I thought, let's try some different paper. Let's mix it up a little bit. So let's go with the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. As you can see, unposted, it's a nice fit in my hand. So we've got here a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. This has got a medium nib. And as I've said a couple of times, 377 Australian dollars. The ink is by Pure Pens. And it's Westgate Hotel. This is part of their Chartist series, and it was made for them by Diamine. It's a nice blue ink, and hopefully it's coming over on here. Certainly on the word Leonardo, we've got a nice red sheen coming through. Just hoping that comes through. Not seeing much of a sheen on the rest of it, but certainly on that first word, we've got that nice red sheen there. Drying times, immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Still smudging quite a lot. Let's go for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm still seeing a slight amount of smudging. So this pen, ink and paper combo seems quite wet. I'm going to just move the mic down to the paper so you can hear the pen writing. This pen, it's nice to write with. The Ayush paper that I'm using, it does have a little bit of texture to it. And this pen on here, it's got that gorgeous amount of feedback. Remember, it's a steel nib, so it's fairly stiff. There's not a lot of bounce to it, but it just flows. It floats over the paper. You can feel the writing. It's got that gorgeous tactile feel to it. Let's look for some line variation. So no pressure. Then I'll add some pressure. Ever so slightly thicker, but not sure if that's because it is going down thicker or just because there's a bit more ink on there. To do some S's, not really much in the way of variation. My final test, my scribble test. Today we're going over an A4 sheet of paper rather than A5, so we're going to actually be scribbling a lot more than what I normally would. There we go, we're all the way over. So absolutely no issues there with flow. Just pop the pen back in. I'm going to put it there at the end of that sentence. Will it fit on the page? Not quite. There we go. So with this Pure Pens Westgate Hotel, sat as I am here, now I've got a very bright lights. I can see some sheen coming through in the word Leonardo. Maybe a little tiny bit on the M in Momento, but to my eye, the rest of it looks fairly blue. But when I look at it on my camera preview, and hopefully this is what you'll see on the video, there's a load of red sheen coming out. You know, especially here in this sentence, you can really see that sheen in there. And to me, that adds a load of character to the writing. And from my point of view, I like to see writing with character. I like sheen. I don't have a shimmer ink in here. I don't ever intend to put a shimmer ink into here either, because I think it'd be so difficult to clean out. But, you know, when you see that sheen, when you see shading, when you see shimmer, that just fetches a lot out in the writing. The pen, I will be honest, it's one of my favourite pens. I've had this now, be about a year to 18 months, constantly being inked up, constantly in my ink case, goes with me virtually everywhere. Absolutely love this pen. So I'm a little bit biased in that respect. It's a steel nib version. I know there are gold nibbed versions, but I think the gold nib versions, they're virtually double the price. And for me, I find this steel nib version is absolutely perfect for what I want. I love the way it writes. As I said, it's got this gorgeous tactile feel to it. The Ayush paper, it's got some texture. There's no coating on it, but this pen works equally well on coated paper like Rhodia. It works well on Tomoe River paper. It works well on my Oxford notebooks. Even the cheap printer paper that I occasionally scribble notes on works well on there. Let's give this some scores. So the first score is for pen look. I like this. I really do. I think it's such an attractive looking pen. I quite like the spaghetti pattern. I like the shape. It's unusual. I think the whole pen as a whole, it just comes together. Things I don't like though, I don't like the clip. As I said, to me, the clip seems too small. And I'd like to have that ink window. So in terms of looks, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Writing experience, I've said already, love the tactile nature, love the feedback on it, love the way it's gliding over the paper, but you can still feel it writing. It's got that little bit of noise to it when you're writing as well, so you can hear it writing. To me, this all adds to that experience. I'm going to give that 9 out of 10 again. Ink flow, as we can see, plenty of ink flow. No issues coming out here with my scribbles. Can we capture any of that sheen on there? Let me just see if I can. I don't know. I'm not seeing much coming through sheen-wise from the scribble, but I am from my writing. It's the writing I care about. The scribble isn't really anything special. It's just a test. In terms of ink flow, again, I'm going to give this 9 out of 10. We then come to the all-important question. Value for money. Difficult one, isn't it? We've got to bear in mind this is 377 Australian dollars. That's a lot of money. For about 60 Aussie dollars, I can get a Moonman M800, which, to be honest, you know, look at them. It's virtually a clone. But this is a cartridge converter. And that's only $60. So 377 for this pen seems like a lot. When you see the quality, when you feel the quality of the workmanship, you can see why it is what it is. I still need to think it's a lot of money. I know. I keep saying that. Value for money. Well, for this pen, what I'm going to do is give it an 8 out of 10, which means the total score for the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande is 8.75 out of 10. But it's my favourite pen anyway, so who cares what the score is? As long as you're enjoying the pen, as long as that pen's letting you get the ideas out of your head and onto paper and in a manner that you're enjoying. Who really cares what a scar is? Because it's the enjoyment which matters, isn't it? So this is my fountain pen focus of the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande in dark Hawaii with Pure Pens Westgate Hotel ink. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What do you think about this Leonardo pen? What do you think about Leonardo pens in general? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.